What is up, folks at home? Welcome back to the channel. It is a busy time on the lake, mid-July. It is popping and the water is hot, but the bite can be hotter. Today we're going to talk about how I fish jigs this time of year when the bluegill come back in, the bass come back in, that thermocline and the boat traffic has pushed them all back in. So we're going to talk about how we fish jigs to mimic bluegill patterns. Plus we're going to talk about how we use the Rattle Worm as an awesome trailer for this technique. So let's talk about flipping jigs in grass patches in the summertime. We'll see you out there. Alright guys, one of my favorite things to fish this time of the year is a flipping jig all in these grass patches that are up shallow. The water temperature gets really high, the oxygen level gets better up shallow, the weeds start to come back a little bit late summer. It's a great time to start flipping a jig for all of these bass in those grass patches right there. Awesome ways to do it. Let's see what we're flipping. Alright, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start shallow to deep when I'm looking for this pattern. I'm going to pick up a 1/4 ounce ball head finesse jig in a bluegill color. I really like greens and oranges and blues this time of year. I've got it paired with a Rattle Worm 4.5 in green pumpkin black flake, and this is a killer combo. 9 out of 10, this is what I'm fishing, because when the bass pull up shallow, they are going to be after bluegill, they're after hard cover. Anywhere where you can see bluegill like that, you can fish this jig and get bit. The Rattle Worm does a great job adding a nice clicking sound to the bait underwater. The jig itself has a nice profile. Think of it like throwing a Magnum Ned rig, if you will. That tail gives it a nice click and a nice profile and a nice glide, and it's not overdone. Plus 9 out of 10 guys are going to throw a crawfish on the back of a jig. Bass have seen all of that. So you're targeting shallow structure, boat docks, cover, any green weeds that you can find up shallow with a jig. It's a different way of presenting, and that ball head comes through just about everything. And there are a ton of bluegill up shallow. You can also flip this bait into those weed clumps in 3 to 4 feet of water and catch bass. They sit down in these weeds, so if you can rip this bait up out of the weeds, it's going to get bit. And you kind of have to jig it and fish it a little bit active and then let it fall down into those holes. So you swim it over the areas, let it fall down into those holes, work it quick. This is a flip and pitch type retrieve. You want to work it quick through those places where you're looking for. The next way I'm going to fish this is on an 1/8 ounce finesse cut jig with that silver pearl color on it. I'm fishing this anytime that the bait fish are up shallow. This is a great shad spawn bait all the way through the deeper part of the summer. In the early morning, those shad come up super shallow. This is a great way to look like a dying shad. It's got a nice finesse cut on this 1/8 ounce jig. It falls slowly, but that rattle gives it a nice little click. You can kind of tickle wind this bait along through a bunch of junk up shallow, and it's going to come through nicely. It's the second option bait that I'm going to pick up for that shallow morning bite before the sun gets up and really starts beating down on those fish. This bait's going to do a great job for you. The next bait, and probably the second most used bait there, I'm going to pick up a brush jig that's 3/8 ounce, and I'm going to move out a little bit deeper to any rock veins I can find or any patches of green weeds out there, and I'm basically going to flip this bait. I've got a copper colored Rattle Worm 4.5 on the back here, and it pairs up beautifully. If you have a lot of shell crackers that have orange in them, this is a bait to throw. If you can find any rock in 8 to 10 foot of water and you throw a jig on it in this combination, it's going to get slammed in the summer. I fish all of my own custom-made homemade jigs. The 3/8 ounce jig is my favorite in this depth because it falls slower, but it still maintains bottom contact. That copper truce color on there, it just looks really good. That copper head color with the 4.5 Rattle Worm on the back of this 3/8 ounce jig is a really big fish bait, right? They are going to eat it. It looks just like a pumpkin seed sunfish coming through there. Anywhere that you can find Hard cover, if you drag this jig around through there, is great. Wood cover, also great. A lot of natural lakes don't have a lot of wood cover. They have rock on bottom. In places where you can find it, you're gonna get bit. The green weeds are often around these areas, so you kind of got to fish through there, kill it in the holes and cover, just like fishing up shallow. But the same principle applies. If you put this bait where the bass are shading themselves, you're going to get bit. And that rattle worm straight up and down on the bottom gives a nice little tail action and a tail flick, something bass aren't used to seeing this time of year. As we get out deeper into that 12 to 15 foot range, if you still have predominantly grass and wood, you're going to move to a 1/2 ounce flipping jig. I like the 1/2 ounce flipping jig here in purple and black and blue because you're going deeper. You want a little bit more stand out in the bait. The flipping jig comes through everything really good. It's a do-all bait. Plus, if you're skipping docks and you have to get way up under there, the 1/2 ounce flipping jig is going to skip better than any bait alive, right? This is a bait that I skip up under docks all the time. Pontoons and docks, or I'm fishing deep, right? I want my shallower jig bite to be a little bit lighter and I want it to fall slower in the summertime, but if I'm fishing docks, I want to skip this bait way up under there. That 1/2 ounce flipping jig is key. Plus, I like to mix blue in with purple this time of year because a lot of the sunfish that I'm around have that blue shine in them. The black and blue 4.5 rattle worm looks really, really good with a peanut butter and jelly jig here, as you can see. I really like the contrast in it. I feel like it gets bit better, and it just overall is a fish catcher in a lot of different situations for me. The final bait that we're going to talk about here is the super deep bait. If I'm in the 20 to 30 foot range and I want to get a jig down there, I'm going to use the 1 ounce football head jig, and I'm literally going to drag this bait along. Now, the rattle worm that I have on here, the watermelon red flake one, looks really, really good. As you can see, it comes through cover nicely. That heavy weight is going to cause a lot of clicks and bangs against the bottom, plus that tail rattling is really going to set it apart. This is an awesome bait on the glide, on the fall down. I've had bass eat it. It does a good job for me in mixed cover, but really deep, nothing beats a football jig in the summer. When Jordan Lee won a classic, he won fishing a 25 foot, flat with a football jig, and it was getting terrific bites on it. It's a fish catcher. All right, guys, hopefully you enjoyed today's video about using those jigs to target those last remaining patches of live grass. In the late summer, those fish come back out from deep to shallow to really inhabit those grass patches, to lean on those green pieces, plus the bluegill and everything that are coming back up. Yeah, they're gonna hit those jigs really, really hard. It can be a great time of the year to fish those jigs with a rattle worm on the back, get that nice little tail action in there. If you guys like what's happening on the channel right now, give us a like, subscribe, comment in the comment section, let us know how we can help you, what baits and techniques you want to see underwater. And hey, as always, talk to us. Shout out to the people that say hi to us on the lake. Always willing to talk. Caden's happy to talk. Sam's happy to talk. I'm happy to talk. We thank you guys. We want to take you along with us for this ride. So let us know. Give us a like, subscribe. We'll see you out there.